now.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm David Jaffe. I'm the co-director of Successful Business Advisors, and we're continuing on this week with our new economic summit webinars. Last week we had a great week of information and talented speakers as specialists in their field, and today we have another one. We're very privileged today to have Karen Cohen with us. She is the founder of Emerging Tech Talent, which specializes in the intersection between emerging tech and HR. She is a fully qualified and experienced HR professional with a passion for mentoring women entrepreneurs. She is on the board of Blockchain Australia, runs Women in Blockchain Melbourne and Women in Emerging Tech. And Karen is known as Block Mum for her caring nature of the blockchain community. This is certainly a growing area in the world community of tech, and I'm excited to be listening to this presentation so I can learn more about it also. Her topic today is emerging tech and the future of work. I'll now pass over to my co-director, Laurent Mass, to run today's presentation in conjunction with Karen.
Thank you very much, David. Good morning, all. Hope you're all well. My name is Laurent Mass, co-founder and director of Successful Business Advisor. And we're going to start this morning straight away an interview with Karen. I'm very pleased to have Karen with us this morning. And Karen, tell us a bit about your background and how you came to be interested in emerging tech and the startup space.
Thank you. Thanks, Laurent and David. Very excited to be here in this cold winter Melbourne morning. Working from our lounge rooms as we are. We're all stuck inside at the moment. So yeah, my background. So I guess I was a really good student at school. I was good at science. I didn't know what to do, so I did a science degree, which I hated. And my mum, being a Jewish mum, told me that I had to finish my degree. So I finished my degree, failed a lot of computer science and math subjects, found I liked economics, and went out into the world and found that I really wanted to work with people. So I went back and did a degree at night, and I studied HR, and that's where I really found my passion. And so I've been working for over 20 years in HR and working with businesses to maximize the people power within their businesses. And a couple of years ago, I was working in insurance. So previous to that, I sort of worked for a lot of consulting firms. I worked for Accenture, McKinsey, and I found myself in insurance, and I got made redundant. And that was a bit of a shock for me. And I realized that the universe kept giving me bits and pieces to do. And why didn't I just go out and run my own consulting company? And so I just decided to try it. And I found there was a real space here for a lot of companies that don't need a full-time HR person. So I sort of fell into that niche where people just need a bit of recruiting or a bit of policies and procedures or help to make somebody redundant or to restructure. And so I found my little space in the world. And a couple of years ago, because I'm quite big on the social media, I wrote that I was running my own agency, and someone said, "Oh, do you want to come work in the blockchain space?" And I was like, what the hell is a blockchain? Like, I didn't really know. And my husband's in tech. I came home and I said, honey, what's a blockchain? And he started to tell me, and my eyes glazed over, and I was like, what the hell? All right, I'll just give it a go. So I found myself surprisingly running the Blockchain Center, which is an education and co-working space with blockchain at the center of it. And I very quickly had to learn about what is blockchain, what is Bitcoin, running events, running education. And I found that I absolutely loved this space, and I love the community. And so I've sort of taken this journey around emerging tech, blockchain technology, and talking about, you know, fintech as well, and working with a lot of women, trying to educate them about the space and give them confidence to join this wonderful emerging tech space. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Karen. It does indeed. And Next, you have been working in the blockchain industry for the past few years. What is interesting about blockchain technology, and how do you believe will it change our future?
So I think what's interesting about blockchain technology, and it's a theme that's sort of going to run through my whole conversation today, is that it's about trust, and the idea that I might just take a little back pedal and say that blockchain technology is really about trusted data, and that's because you have multiple copies of this data everywhere, and not one person can just go and change data. And if you imagine a world where you can trust data, you start to get excited. For instance, if you had control over your data and it was trusted data, if you went to the doctor and you had a mole and that doctor removed your mole, under the current sort of centralized medical system, they could then message your pharmacy. You go and pick up your medicine from the pharmacy, and then a few months later you go, oh, I need to get health insurance, and then it's declined because, hey, you had potential cancer and your doctors released that information to the insurance company and you had no control over that. Whereas in a trusted, decentralized environment, you could have control over your medical data. You could give that information out as you please, and you would know that it's a trusted source of information and you could control it. And where this gets really interesting in terms of owning your own ID, and from an HR perspective, imagine not having to, when you apply for a job, you have a CV, but attached to that CV is validated credentials such as your degree. So, you know, at the moment you get a CV, you have to trust that somebody is actually saying they did that degree, they completed that degree. You have no way of validating other than ringing the uni or sending an email. In this scenario, the unis could pre-validate that data. You could have your reference checks pre-validated. Your reputation could come with you from places like eBay or Airbnb, and you could release that data. And even your psych test, you wouldn't have to do it every single time you apply for a job. It could all be recorded, validated, and so you would come as a validated data package for an employer, which is really, really valuable. So I'm really, as an HR professional, I'm really looking forward to the day that we can actually do that. There's a group who currently working with the Red Cross type human, and they are using micro credentials to be able to move the volunteers across the world really quickly. And so that's really exciting because you don't have to say, you know, send an email with, I've done my first aid course or I've learned this particular skill. It just moves with you. So that's part of the exciting nature of the blockchain industry and why I'm so in love with this industry. Hope that sort of summarizes the blockchain question for you, Laurent.
Thank you, Karen. It does. Fantastic. And next, what other emerging tech is interesting to you?
So following on this theme of payments is really interesting. So we're seeing a lot of neobanks popping up, a lot of challenges to traditional banking, traditional finance. A couple of years ago, I hired a girl from Holland, and she wanted me to pay her over there. I went to the bank. I put $40 extra on the table. She got her money, and €10 went missing in between. I went to my bank. I said, where's the €10? They said, we didn't do it. She went to her bank. We didn't do it. So somewhere along the way, for every transaction, there's money going missing. There's intermediaries. There's this concept of direct payment. You know, I could pay you guys directly using cryptocurrency or any other direct payment, digital currency. And we could trust that payment isn't going to be interrupted by other people in the middle who just take their cut along the way. And that's a big shake-up for the payments industry. And so I guess one of the other interesting industries at the moment that's funny for me is I went to Pause Fest last year when you could have conferences. I think it was earlier this year actually, and there was this wonderful woman called Byrony Cole, and she studies the sex tech industry. And so she sort of talks about, you know, if you think about sex tech industry, it's about, for men, it's, you know, how do you get the best orgasm? But really, there's so much more you can do with the sex tech industry. Like you talk about fertility. So there are apps that can measure, you know, sperm virility, when it's best time to reproduce. There's now, we're talking about, you know, suits that you'll be able to wear and you'll be able to touch on your mobile and feel touch. and then, you know, kissing apps, these sorts of things. We're talking about connections to human beings through apps. And in this time when we're all stuck inside, it's a really exciting thing to think about. Imagine if Tinder could buy some of those apps as well. I actually just want to share my screen because there's a really good example that of sex tech industry, which is really funny to share. So I hope you can see that. So this is
Yes.
this is Japan, and so this guy here is one of many who's actually married his avatar. So you can see her there. She's designed to look like a little schoolgirl, and she can text him and say, "Hey, honey, how's your day going?" And she can also turn on the lights and the heating for him just before he comes home. And she can text him and say, "Honey, I miss you." And so, you know, we are now at this point, this tipping point of loneliness where, you know, people would rather like talk to an avatar than they would to the, you know, to each other. And Japan in particular has a problem where, you know, it's an aging population, so they're actually not reproducing as quickly as they are aging. So, you know, it's a sad point when you start marrying your avatar, but, you know, it shows you what is coming in terms of the technology. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what else is coming in emerging tech. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Yes. Interesting example. Huh? Wow, it's really a big start of a new generation. So another question: how has COVID affected the workplaces, and what are some of the ways employers will be affected in the future?
Yeah, so I think we've all been thinking deeply about what does working from home mean, and I think there was a scramble at the beginning for everyone to get their Zoom set up and work the technology. And, you know, I think we all begin our conversations with, "Yes, I can see you, but I can't hear you." So, you know, we've mastered this idea of working from home. We're all walking around in our tracksuit pants and our UGG boots and taking our showers at different times. And I think it's changed, again, this theme of trust between employers and employees. So I think what we've had to think about now is, how do we set tasks that aren't time-based but are activity-driven? And how do we measure those tasks? And how do we, as managers, continue to give feedback to people based on their tasks? You know, we need more human interaction because we don't have that sort of water cooler conversation. And so trust is really important. I think one thing we've proven is you can work from home. You do gain 2 more hours of productivity, depending how far away you live, and getting on the transport and buying your coffee out and all those sorts of things. And if you do take a walk for an hour, you're likely to give back 2 hours. So we're tipping that point of trust, and people are not in a hurry to go back 5 days a week. So we're going to be saving money on rent. We're going to be creating different types of workspaces. So people will have drop-in days for meetings rather than, you know, 5 days a week, and it will save us on real estate. It also changes the way that we work as employers. I think it's really important to ask people to turn on their camera when they're in meetings and to be able to read body language and see if people are disengaged. It's really important to keep checking in with people, make more time for one-on-one conversations, make more time to check in and see how they are, make more social times for chit-chat. So Friday night e-drinks with your teams. You can even send stuff to their houses so we're all eating and drinking the same thing, just to make that human connection and not just all about work. I had one person who I was working for, and, you know, she didn't turn up for a meeting. She was working with me. And then I rang her and said, "What's going on? Where are you?" And this was before COVID. We were already working from home. And she said, "Oh, I'm in a cafe and I've had a fight with a friend." And I couldn't see her face. And, you know, it became a bit more of a check-in. And then later on, you know, I had some team members who weren't actually meeting their tasks. And I was like, "What's going on with you guys? Why are you not doing what you need to do?" And they're like, "Oh, we're just so overwhelmed. We're overwhelmed with technology, with the way that the requests come. They come from instant messaging. They come from emails. We can't organize ourselves." And us Gen X, we grew up with pen and paper. We had to self-organize, and this stuff grew for us organically. We got the internet, and then we got all these different technologies, and we've learned to absorb it. But I think the next generation, it's harder for them. There's so much noise, there's social media, and so, you know, we need to rely on some of these project management apps that actually track and prioritize for them what they need to be doing. So there's, you know, some really good apps. There's one called Listly, and there's a couple of others that people are using. I think there's one called Monday. There's a lot of free apps you can use to track how things are going and help them to prioritize and make time for those things, and make time and an effort for feedback. Feedback is really hard to get via computers and via screens, and we've lost that interpersonal touch. And it's really, really important just to stop and to talk to them about how they're going and check in. Another point I really wanted to make is about loyalty. And I think loyalty for employees and employers is going to be pretty much dead after all of this. So how you handled COVID and how you, what leadership you showed. So if you asked your more junior staff to take their leave and to go part-time, but the leadership didn't do that and didn't forego their bonuses, that's going to reflect badly. And when we go back into this kind of employer market, they're going to be the first to leave, right? Whereas if everyone took a hit, we all did it together and we all showed leadership, it's really important to make sure that we handle this together. And this will be a mark against employers. And people are expecting less and less to have these longer term relationships. We're becoming a bit like the US, where you know, you work for me because I want you to, and I work for you because I want to. And so you get this kind of moving of people. And so if you don't treat your people well, they will move on, and it's really important. And one other thing I sort of want to touch on is the JobKeeper. So how we use JobKeeper is obviously that we will schedule people who are paid for by the government first. And so there's a lot of employees that they may be better performers, but they're off because, you know, or we're holding on to poorer performers because they're paid for. So there's no point in dealing with it now. We'll deal with it later. So come September, I think we're going to see huge restructuring in companies where those that are sort of set back pretty on JobKeeper, or those that have been laid off during this time will come back in, or people restructuring because the way that the government actually is working is actually sorry, I'm just checking some of these messages. The way that the government is making us work is actually different to our natural pattern, and so we're sort of taking the easy path out. So yeah, I think that COVID has really affected a lot of the way that we work. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much, Karen. And yes, I was going to come to those questions. Thank you very much, Michelle, that asked a couple of questions. And the first one is, what are others emerging techs coming into the market from your point of view and experience and expertise, Karen?
Yeah, so I think that's a really good question. I watch that. I think there's nothing that's not going to be affected by emerging tech. We are all ripe for change. You know, we talked about payments, we talked about sex tech, but you know, even lawyers and accounting, they're going to be a lot of automation of a lot of boring tasks that they normally do. You're already seeing it. You know, if you want to find a quick NDA, you can find it on the internet. So we're stepping up in terms of the tasks that we're doing that need people thinking, and automation is going to actually change how we do our work and what work is required. One of the industries that's really going to be affected is the driver industry. We know that self-driving cars are coming. I went for a job interview a few years ago, and this woman said to me, she worked for, I think, for Holden. She said, in Europe, they're building houses at the moment that have self-driving cars at the bottom, and you'll be able to not own a car, you'll own a share in a car, and you'll call it on a Saturday morning. It'll come from your building or the next building over, it'll drive itself, and it'll take you shopping. And so this whole concept of self-driving cars is that the robot only has to be slightly better than humans. It doesn't get drunk, it doesn't get fatigued, it doesn't make mistakes. So as long as it's killing less humans than we're killing on the road, it's coming. And so what that means for the Uber industry, which is a huge industry, you know, and truck industry. Uber is going to be like the leader in this. So the drivers are going to be Uber, you know, they're going to go. And so it's really quite frightening what is going to happen to the jobs of the future and how we manage that. And I think, again, this sort of speaks to this idea that these long-term careers are going to be less and less, and we're going to have to become more nimble in terms of these careers.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Karen. And the next question from Michelle is, how will jobs be affected by artificial intelligence in the future?
Yeah, so that's kind of what I was talking about. I think, you know, some of these routine tasks are going to be taken over.
Yeah, you covered that, that's true.
Yeah.
How do we future-proof ourselves and our job in the future? Same, you covered that. Fantastic. Yeah. So thank you very much, Michelle, for your participation. Another question, different, but in the same spirit. What are some of the issues faced by women in tech?
So yeah, this is something that's really close to my heart. So in the Bitcoin was industry and crypto industry, 90% of buyers are male, and about 70% are aged between 25 and 45. So this is a young boys industry. And so for women coming into it, it's a really difficult conversation. I think one of the biggest you know, hard things is to feel confident when you're walking into a room full of young, smart, programming boys and feel like you can hold your own. And so we run Women in Blockchain to kind of create a space for women to be able to ask questions and to learn and not feel intimidated. And similarly, I'm starting another group called Women in Emerging Tech, which will be the same. So we'll start to talk about other topics like AI and cyber and all the other emerging techs to sort of build that conversation, both for men and for women. But really, the reason we carve out this space is for us not to feel afraid to ask questions, not to feel that we don't have the language. I think one of the interesting things was I had a little foray into the fintech industry last year. I ran Women in Fintech program for Stone and Chalk. And I noticed that a lot of the women in this industry have had to grow up through the traditional banking industry and work really hard to break that glass ceiling. So there was a different feel to the other emerging techs. And, you know, there's that kind of growing up with the hard knocks of life. And so I really want to encourage women to continue to drive each other up and support one another and not knock each other down. I went to a dinner not long ago, and Karen Andrews was speaking, and she sort of said, don't drop the ladder on the way down. And that was a really important point, you know, like we just need to continue to buoy each other up and to mentor each other and support one another. Yeah.
Well said, Karen, well said.
Thank you.
Can I just add about women in technology? I have one client we're working with now who is in digital publishing, and what they're finding is it's hard to find the coding people, the female coders, to come and work for them, and they're desperately looking for women to balance out their organization because it's all full of blokes, as you say. So
yeah, it's interesting. I think it starts with the confidence of women, girls, you know, and there's a lot of wonderful people out there trying to encourage women to be coders. Not all of us feel good about coding. I definitely didn't. And yeah, so I think there's definitely a shortage of girl coders, and a lot of women are going back and coding. So I would definitely encourage people to learn coding if they can. I met the previous CEO of IBM, Andrew Stevens, a couple of years ago. He won an award for his HR practices at IBM. One of the things that he did was he made sure there was a succession plan for women at IBM at every single level. So yeah, he was hiring 50% girls
right.
At a graduate level, but this wasn't just graduates. This is, you know, at every single level, he created succession plans for women. And so now if you go to IBM, you know, I think it's a totally different place based on his, you know, active interest in promoting and educating women to the next level.
Thank you so much, Karen. Yes.
And later this week, we've got Caitlin Isles speaking, who's also in the fintech space, angel investor, also pushing, for greater representation by women. So
Yes. And we walk the talk as well at the New Economy Summit, because we're ticking the Sustainable Development Goals #5 for equality gender, as we have 6 expert leader women and 6 men in this summit. So we are very pleased about having the equality gender. I see a couple of questions on the Q&A part. I'm inviting everyone to use more the chat room, like that it's easier for us to manage. So, Karen, another question coming from Darren. Other than finance, what are others using for cryptocurrency for?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So we're seeing, I think cryptocurrency is generally used for the finance side of things, so payments. So, in supply chain, for instance, you want to move money really quickly from one end of the world to the other, you can use cryptocurrency. And then the blockchain technology is then being used for other types of the industry. So we're seeing crypto also being used for things like rewards, loyalty. So you can go to Chatston, for instance, get your points and then convert that into rewards and loyalty payments between the merchants, which is really fun. So blockchain technology is going to be used in a lot of industries, not just the payments, and obviously the crypto payments sit behind that, and the moving of data behind that as well.
Thank you, Karen. Another question from Michelle. How soon can we expect displacement in our future jobs by AI and emerging tech?
I think it happens every day, and it's slow for us. We don't even feel it. There's a company now that's doing your ledgers on the blockchain in terms of your accounting. So that means that auditors can find their data really quickly, because it's sort of making a copy behind the system, and they're called block ledger. And so they talk a little bit about the role of the auditor, instead of being chasing data all the time, actually being more about what was designed to be an auditor. Same with lawyers. If you can find data very quickly about which laws you need, or you can find templates, then you can turn your attention more quickly to the consulting side of law, and whether or not you'd advise your clients and becoming more advisory. So we are seeing these changes every single day, and it's creeping up on us. We don't even realize. And it's not that the robots are going to all take our jobs. It's more that we're automating things that are routine and day-to-day, and we don't need peoples and brains to do it. And so I think one of the questions was, how do we future-proof ourselves? And this is really about being nimble and about being quick to learn new technologies and not be afraid. I know when I started the Blockchain Center, every day someone would bring me another piece of technology. Learn this project management, learn Wave apps, it's another accounting system, learn, integrate your bank into that. I learn this more chat, learn Telegram, learn this. And I was like, oh my God, kill me now. I can't. But now I've actually learned to embrace when someone says, try this. Go, okay, cool, I'll try it. And to automate, I just walked into one of my clients is a manufacturing food company, and they were still manually checking every single timesheet, 40 timesheets every week, 9 to 5 with a half an hour break, and typing that in, and scanning that and sending it to payroll system. And we've automated now, and you go in with an iPad and you get your face checked. You don't even have to touch the screen because of COVID. And so that was absolute delight for me to automate something like that and to really embrace the technology. So now our accountant doesn't have to sit there every week, for hours on end and add up the hours. So these things are coming, and we to future-proof ourselves, we need to get behind the technology. We need to accept it. We need to embrace it. We need to be as nimble as possible to these things so that we can be employable. And employable might not be climbing the career ladder anymore. Employability might just be being freelancers, and we're seeing a lot of these job boards and freelance job boards, and you might not work 5 days a week anymore. You might not have a career anymore. I spoke to a guy who he was a CFO and in his 50s, and he said, what am I going to do? I just got made redundant. I said, embrace it. You may be an outsourced CFO and you may never be a CFO again, but you'll have work. You just got to accept that the universe is changing and we all need to embrace it.
Really good advice, Karen. Thank you so much. Really good tips, plenty of golden nuggets for everyone. Another question from Judy. I think you covered a little bit, but I will read it through the end. It's in 2 parts. Karen, awesome presentation. What industries do you see taking blockchain technology in the coming years? And have you seen any blockchain tech in healthcare, travel? Thank you.
Healthcare and travel. Okay, yeah. So yes. I think, as I mentioned, every industry is trying to get into the blockchain industry. The barriers for success are probably it is a nascent industry, and so people need to learn the technology and trust the technology and have suppliers that they feel safe with. And so I think we've just seen a blockchain roadmap for Australia come out from the government, which is exciting that the government is getting behind the blockchain industry, and it's wonderful to see it on the agenda. What we'd love to see is that the government agencies, such as the healthcare industry, say, hey, we're not going to use this old, technology anymore. We're actually going to try digital ID. We're going to try blockchain technology for medical. I think it's really important that we control our medical data rather than leaving it in a centralized system. As I mentioned, the banking system and moving money internationally is definitely ripe for a change. Supply chain is another one. We saw a couple of years ago, the Commonwealth Bank led a project which took almonds across the world, and they integrated Internet of Things. So temperature, moisture, they could measure it. They did payments on the blockchain system. So we're seeing that moving. People are looking at wine and meat, moving those more expensive products from Australia overseas and tracking that where it came from, where it's been, what temperature it was checked at, how you pay for it, that authenticity. We're seeing art, really expensive pieces of art or jewelry. Everledger's doing jewelry, diamonds, all these things where, you want to make sure if you're paying a lot of money that it really is authentic and you can validate it. So this is where we're seeing blockchain technology being utilized. And it's good to see, countries like the UAE and China, the governments are really behind blockchain technology and pushing them much further forward. And then our government will then feel confident once they've seen these projects happening that they can do it too.
Very good. Thank you so much, Karen. Another question from Michelle. How is your organization encouraging STEM take up among women and minority groups in Australia?
Yeah, I'm loving this push for STEM, and they're calling it STEAM now, so science, technology, engineering, art, and management. And one of the interesting things that's come out this week was the government was hinting at, well, not so hinting at what jobs are going to come out of education. So they're pushing more sciences and technology, and they're saying that they're going to up the price of humanities because they're feeling that that's not where the jobs are going to come from. And I think it's important to choose a generalist degree, but if I was backing a degree, I would say there's a lot of lawyers that are coming out that won't be able to get jobs in the future. There's so many law students, so many accounting students. I would be backing business systems, technology, all those things that are going to help you be nimble as the world changes really, really quickly, and make you feel confident you can apply for any job. And one of the things that we know is that confidence is really important for applications of jobs and stepping up. So, we hear all the time that men will apply for a job that they're only 50% ready for, but women will only apply for a job that they feel 100% ready for. So this confidence building, the building blocks behind us, making sure that we feel confident to step up is important, and arming us with the education behind us to do that.
Fantastic. Thank you, Karen. David?
So at Melbourne University, they employ 2 counsellors to advise their law students on what to do with their law degree other than law.
Yeah.
Just preparing
Yeah,
them
it's good.
for-
It's a really good
preparing them.
initiative. Yeah.
because law is the base for a lot of business, that they can easily move into another field, having had that background.
Yeah, and I think there's the kind of that race for everyone wanting to work for the big law firms, and they're only going to hire X number of people, right? So then what do you do with that degree? And you hope that they're also adding commerce law, business law, arts law, science law, all those things to broaden. And, you know, I used to work for an insurance company, as I said, and we hired lawyers who wanted flexibility. So they would work 9 to 5, they could work from home, they could use their law degree to settle insurance cases, but they weren't practicing lawyers. And there were a lot of women in that space, and in fact, most of them worked from home. So it was a really lovely place if you wanted to sort of get off that 15-minute billing cycle. Or I think it's 6-minute billing cycle now. Yeah.
Very good. So we got another question, a bit longer in several parts from admin. The power of releasing. I'm reading to you, Karen. I'm a female based in Singapore, learning artificial intelligence at the moment. My professional training is in social work. What online support groups will you recommend me to join?
Well, I'm a massive advocate for Meetup. I only found Meetup a few years ago. What I love about Meetup is you literally meet up for any reason. So you can meet up to go to the movies, you can meet up to go walking in the park, you can meet up about technology. And so I would encourage everyone to go on to Meetup and to pick topics that are interesting, women in technology, women in AI, women in emerging tech. Go to these meetups and just, everyone's so friendly. Like, it's just one of those places you're there because you want to meet other people and you want to talk about stuff. So that's for me, like, what opened my world was the Meetup and Eventbrite culture, and just, yeah, these sorts of online webinars. Best thing about the startup world is there's always somebody who needs something. So volunteering to work for a project for free, becoming a co-founder, you know, for equity in the future, and just joining teams, and it's a wonderful environment where you can just try stuff and learn stuff, and it's very exciting time to join these people that just have these great ideas and just want to start something. Yes,
really good advice. And the best way to learn is by practicing and experience. So yeah, help other the small startup. It's a really good advice. So another one, hi Karen, in terms of automation at work and the use of artificial intelligence, based on your personal experience, what is 1 or 2 applications that you feel will be important for business owner to know and use as soon as possible within the next 6 months? Beautiful question. I think starting to look at some of these free or cheaper sort of tools, things like I'm sure a lot of people are using Xero and accounting systems now. You can really interact with your accountant. A lot of people are bringing HR in-house, recruitment in-house. So, I think the recruitment industry is ripe for a really big shake-up, and has been over the last few years. You can buy a seat on LinkedIn and get access to everybody for about $100 a month, and get someone on your team to just, come in and work with you on recruitment and bringing all that in-house. So yeah, I think automation, a lot of these tools where you can actually track each other's projects, and work with each other, and track where you're going is really important as well. So I like small amounts of automation, like what can we do better? At the moment we're looking at a safety product at work. So at the moment everyone's writing down the temperature of food. Someone that's
just created an app that we can just go in and put the temperatures in and make sure it's all working. And if the number's wrong, we can go back and recheck it quickly because there's a little alarm. So yeah, I think just keeping an eye out and saying what's not working, what can we do better, and not being afraid of the technology is really important every single day.
Very good, very good.
And there's other emerging technology. One of my clients over in Perth has got AI around CCTV cameras. They're not selling any cameras, but they're plugging in the machine learning into various verticals, whether it be aged care, child care, security. So the camera is taught someone shouldn't be in this area after 6 o'clock. And if there is that instance, it gets reported to the control room, and you can have two levels of AI. One is immediate and one is delayed. And you can get a report to your app, to the client's app, just saying what went wrong. So you define what's normal and it reports on what's abnormal.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And yeah, you see everything's changing around us really quickly.
And different silos.
Yeah.
Like they can take that technology into different, much like what you're talking about, blockchain goes into different silos also. It has applications in so many different fields through the trust mechanism of the documentations you're being supplied.
Yeah, correct. Very good. Thank you for sharing, David. Thank you, Karen, as well. And the last question. We've worked, hi Karen, we've worked being more remote in nature and people work from different physical space. What are principles and theories in leadership that is necessary to be applied and put in place to ensure everyone in the team is aligned in terms of values, work ethics, and to work in synergy with one another? Really good question.
Yeah, I love this question. What a beautiful question. Thank you. I think it's magnified, isn't it? So, you know, are we good at setting values and living values even when we're at work? Do we know what our values are? Have we agreed those values in our culture? Are we measuring them? Are we talking them? Are we living them? Are we holding each other accountable? And that's already hard enough to do when we're working in one space, right? You know, hey, Karen, you did this, and that's not in line with our values. Oh, I'm really sorry about that. So how do you do that kind of remotely? And this is sort of what I was talking about in the beginning, that we need to just continuously check in. So making more times for team meetings and making them meaningful and holding, you know, those cultural values up as shining lights. So giving positive examples, you know, hey, Karen did this really, really well this week. Did everyone see that? And then I like to say praise in public and criticize in private. So then, you know, having those one-on-one calls and saying, hey, I noticed you did this week. Are you okay? Like, is something going on at home? Are your kids stuck at home with you and driving you insane and you missed this deadline? Or, you know, what's going on? Are you feeling demotivated? I think we really need to acknowledge there's a whole lot of anxiety in society at the moment about going outside, about coming back to work. A lot of people, you know, are feeling stuff at home that we can't see and we can't feel. So, you know, yes, we need to hold each other accountable to tasks, but we also need to be supportive and kind and empathetic and check in more with one another because we can't see each other's faces. So I think these are really important questions.
Yes. Thank you very much, Karen. I invite everyone as well to breathe. That help. So, Danny, question. I love that. Embrace the new time created due to all the time saving measures. Do you see any industries not impacted but actually increasing in size and need for it? In example, meditation centers, community groups, any areas where you see the largest growth. And the last sentence is pity they don't advise them before they start.
I think they were referring to lawyers in that one. I think, what's been fascinating in this COVID time has been the industries of growth. So we talk about essential services, health, food, all those gym and you know, things that we didn't have time for before because we were so busy commuting and running around and doing after school activities and all those things. We suddenly have time for exercise. So, you know, didn't have time to walk. Now you go outside and see everybody walking. So I'm looking forward, like everybody is, to getting the gym back because I've eaten way too much chocolate at home and way too much coffee. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what emerges from this mire of, you know, us being at home. And we know we need food, we know we need exercise, we know we need brain power, we know we need meditation. Everyone is zoomed out, you know. I do yoga online. I'm like at that point where, my God, I cannot wait for it just to open up and see human beings, but knowing also that there's fear in that. So I think, yeah, that there's also been a recognition from the government and investing in health and mental health. So yeah, we're definitely seeing a realignment of what's important. But when we get back out there and we get busy again, will we forget what we thought was important in this time and what we had time for?
Thank you, Karen. So we got a few great presentations. Karen, thank you. From Samantha, thank you, Karen, from your answers. Admin, the power of releasing. And I'm looking at, please feel free if you have any other questions. So we prepared one question. What are ways we can engage Gen I and millennials in the future?
Yeah, so looking at Gen Y and millennials are probably a little bit different to us Gen Xers who, and when I started, you didn't question authority and you worked really, really hard. You put in the extra hours and we were going to get a mortgage and we were going to work hard. And, you know, now take the mortgage off the table and take these long-term careers and loyalty off the table. We are in a different space and we have to really think about people wanting to work for you, wanting to engage with you as a manager, wanting to work for your company. You know, Dan Pink talked about motivation being purpose, autonomy, and mastery. And so are your purpose of the company and the people working for you, if they're not aligned, they're going to leave. Autonomy is a really interesting one. And I struggle with it as a manager because I like to just give people things to do and expect that they know how to do it. But some people need more hand holding. Some people just want to be told what to do and not how to do it. So you know, reflecting on the style of the person that you're managing. And mastery, you always want to feel like we're getting better. And recognition is massively important. And we need to understand that recognition is very different for different people, and asking those questions, what's going to be important to you? Is it going to be a bonus? Is it going to be a pay increase? Is it going to be a title? I can't give you a pay increase, but I can change your title. I've worked for a lot of companies where people don't really care about the money so much as long as they look good to the outside and the title's important. Or, you know, I've worked really hard, I can't give you time in lieu, but I can give you a senior title. So these are all really important things for motivating people as we go forward, particularly in this change time where people can move really quickly and they don't feel that they need 2 years on their CV anymore. It's just how it is with the transient careers.
Thank you, Karen. Yes, David?
So I have always believed in reverse mentoring and listening to the young people tell me what they want as an employee, customer, supplier. And now today I have one of my staff here. I'm not quite sure what motivates him because I want him to grow, but he's comfortable where he's at. And today we're having a discussion about that as to where we're going with this particular employee, because he gets the work out, but I want more and he's capable.
Yeah, it's such a good example, isn't it? So you want more and they're capable, but they don't really want to give more.
Correct.
And so maybe growth for you is you know, different to growth for them. One interesting conversation I have had in the past for retention conversation is where do you want to be kind of in a couple of years? Bring me those job descriptions. Let's start to tick those things off while you're here. I don't expect that you'll be here in 5 years. but I would love you to be in 2 years ready for this job. And so start to pick some of those skills out so that they feel ready when they leave you, and they feel grateful when they leave you that you've helped them develop to that point. Some people don't want to work harder, you know, and that's hard for us to understand because we're like ambitious people, right? But some people just want to come to work, do their job, and then they like doing things outside of work. And so, you know, wanting more out of people isn't necessarily what they want.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Karen. Great tips. Another question from Michelle. Can you comment on emerging technology, the place of the AI and global sustainability issues?
Oh, I love this question. It's so beautiful, isn't it? Like if we start to think about, I've got a colleague who's making rubbish bins that are smart rubbish bins and know when they're full. And what does that mean? Well, that means that the council isn't sending people out to empty bins that aren't full. And that means that they can put bins where they need to be put. And you could start to put smart meters into bins, you know, for different kinds of things, like, you know, whether it's recyclable or not. So there's so much room for AI in this concept of looking at sustainability, and it's all on our consciousness, isn't it? I just really do. I'm really frustrated by the fact that we don't have recycling plants in Australia, and we decide we'll just send it out to China, and China like, we don't want your rubbish. Like if we had a vision for creating, you know, factories for recycling in Australia, creating jobs, creating materials that break down better, and not selling things that can't, we would have such a bright future around sustainability. So I would love it if we could turn our government's attention to creating more intelligent processes for recycling and for ecology, for our kids.
Same for entrepreneurs. For those who listen to us, you know, there is plenty of opportunities here to take on for an entrepreneurship journey. Thank you very much, Karen. And I see another. Thank you, Karen. Your insight was gold, speaking to real issues that have been re-engineered by emerging tech and tied to global sustainability issues is both refreshing and insightful. Thank you very much, Michelle. Danny, 100% love that Mayota are working on coffee cup, which looks awesome. Thank you, Danny, for sharing. And maybe a last question, or if the audience have another question. Samantha, most of these issues are fiscal limitation with our small markets, high wage, and huge spaces. Thank you. Thank you, Samantha, for your comment.
So
yes,
I have an answer.
Yes.
With sustainability, I've had people in the past come up with recycling for printer cartridges. Nothing goes to landfill. And whilst you say it's an expensive journey to raise funds, people would throw money at this because it was all advancing sustainability and recyclable. So I think there's a part of the market that if you actually go to the investor market, if it's green, they'll throw money at you at the investor level, not the government level.
Yeah.
And then the corporates have to report in their annual reports what they've done towards sustainability. So they're actually encouraged to use the companies that get set up for this. So there are other forces at work that push this along, but it's a slower journey because the cost to get into it is far greater.
Yeah. Yes, Karen?
So yeah, I just want to note Danielle's mentioned the Blockchain Collective. So they do education about blockchain. You can do a diploma in blockchain or advanced diploma in blockchain through them if you're interested in learning more about blockchain technology. But thanks, Danielle, for reminding us that we can learn through the Blockchain Collective.
Yes. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you. It's great information. Happy to happy to hear more people talking about blockchain education. Daniel Mary. So, and just a quick final one. What's the most important advice you can give to women who want to advance their career in tech? Just to finalize, we got a couple of minutes. Thank you very much, Karen. Go for it.
Thanks for having me, guys. So I think the most important thing is pick a mentor and pick a champion. I think David mentioned before about reverse mentoring. You know, we all want to be held up by someone, and, you know, a mentor can give us the confidence and the advice to keep moving forward. So that's my advice to everyone. And if you need any help around HR or women in emerging tech, please contact me. I'm happy to speak to anyone.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, all. Thank you very much, Karen.
And
David?
Thank you very much, Karen. It's been a fantastic presentation, and we really appreciate your participation in this summit. This afternoon, we'll be sending around links to Karen's website and today's presentation, and you can follow up with her. We will be looking at how we're going to set up a chat area for people to communicate in the coming up, and we thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen, again. Thank you all for this morning, and we hope to see you tomorrow with Judy Saez that will give plenty of golden nuggets on marketing, and the topic is if you can't market, you will die. So can't wait to hear.
Great to see Judy tomorrow. Yeah.
Yes. Wishing you all a wonderful day. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.